doing hit go live.
Good.
There you go. You're now live.
All right. We can call this meeting to order. This is the Tompkins County Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee today on Wednesday, December 7th. Welcome. And I think everyone here knows each other, so I don't know if we need to do introductions this time around. So does anyone have any announcements that they'd like to share? I see none. Okay. So next, I guess we need a motion to approve the minutes, or do we want to first, if there's any questions or amendments? I did notice my name was misspelled a few places. It doesn't really make a huge difference to me if that's corrected or not, but.
Yeah, do you know where it's spelled?
Where was it? I noticed it.
I see the paragraph under reports /
Reports updates. Yeah, just that one first paragraph of that section was the only place that I noticed it.
May I ask what page? Packet.
That is page 5.
And where am I looking? It's the biggest paragraph. Yep, I see that.
And I think it's only 2, oh no, it's 3 spots.
GRAHAM.
It's the first name. There's no A.
Oh, that's where I was like, I see now.
Yeah, everywhere else it was good though. Other than that, they look accurate and good to me.
I will move.
Thank you, Kate. Moves.
Okay.
Did Veronica second or Annie raised her hand too? Either way. Okay, and then we need to vote on that then, right? So I will start with Veronica.
Yes.
Thank you. And Kate. And Annie.
Yes.
And Jennifer.
Yes.
And Ken. All right. And I'm yes too. So those are approved. Moving on to our workplace demographics report from Ruby. Thank you,
Hello,
Ruby.
everybody. I guess I could share screen. I'll try. I will try. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Let's see if I can stop it from doing okay, the 3-in-1. Uh-oh, forget that. Okay. Okay, from beginning. There we go. I did it. Okay, so I will preface this report with basically saying last year it was difficult to get reliable numbers. We were using the Infor system last year. This year it was even difficult because we no longer have access to the Infor system. So we pulled some reports and kind of pulled it together, but I was only able to make sense of the race and the gender numbers for right now. We're still working with the UKG representative in how to actually get real reliable numbers. So today I'm only presenting just the race, ethnicity, and gender numbers that we've come up with. I have here your 2021 totals and your 2022 totals. If you would notice for the white category, there is an increase from 664 employees to 757. And I say this is all employees. The reports have not been able to separate full-time versus part-time, temporary, and we had a couple of hundred of Board of Elections people that have been active in the system. So we're going with the total numbers here. Black African American increased from 25 to 40. American Indian and Alaska Native from 3 to 4. Asian Pacific Islander from 12 to 14. Hispanic or Latino or any race from 14 to 19. And the multi 2 or more from 18 to 23. So there was a slight increase in all categories. What you would see, the percentage wise, we took the total number that we could say were reliable numbers, added them up, and we had a total of 857 that we did the percentages with. The system actually shows a number of 946 active employees. I just wanted that to be there so that you are aware that there's a definite difference between the numbers that we have and can say are reliable versus the total number that's in the system. But all the percentages were done on the numbers that we could actually calculate. There's an decrease, and it's showing a decrease because we're going with the 857 versus the 946 number. So in all categories, basically, we have a slight increase. Total minorities, based upon the 857, total minorities represent 11.67%. As far as male and gender, again, using the 857 as our total employees, males 337, representing 39.32% of the workforce, females 520, representing 60.68% of the workforce. I would like to say that we are increasing our numbers, but without any real context, it's difficult to say exactly how much. So that's all I could present for today. And do you have any questions for me? And I think I've stopped sharing.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I have one question. Is there a way, or would there be a reason to track that for like management versus general employees?
We are hoping so. They will be in the categories that we have to report our EEO reports.
Okay.
So we have them broken down by job group, administrative, professional, skills, trade, labor, that way.
Okay.
The system, when we tried to do that, the numbers didn't add up to even what the total numbers were on the report. So I said, let's not report that now until we figure out how to pull all the information from the system to actually get a reliable report. But yes, they are in EEO categories.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Annie.
Thank you. Thank you for this report, Ruby. Just wondering, you said about the number 900 and something, but that's, and then there's the other 700. Right. So can you explain the difference?
The 946 or 946 includes JTPA, that's the students that work over in Office of Employment and Training. It includes a couple of maybe almost 200 Board of Election employees. You know, they may be on the payroll for one payroll, but they have to be listed in the system as active. So the total numbers is what we were given for the report. It came up to be 946. But when we were adding the actual numbers that we had per racial category, it came up to 857. That's why I did the percentages based upon the 857. Because the JTPA and the Board of Election employees may not be on the active payroll. They're on and off based upon when the elections are held. And the students may be a temporary, so we don't have numbers or racial categories for them.
Okay, so and now you're saying it's that noise on my end. Are you guys hearing anything?
I'm not.
I don't think we do.
I'm not.
Oh, good.
It stopped.
So I'm just wondering, you're talking about the 900, now you're talking about an 800. So, but I thought on the chart, you said it was 700 and something,
That was
750.
757 white employees who is identified as white.
Okay,
It
but
was
the total,
757.
the total of employees is into the 800?
857 that we were able to get the racial demographics to match.
And those are our full or part-time people,
That-
we think, excluding those
includes
other
both.
categories.
Yes,
Pardon me?
that includes both full and part-time.
Right, but it takes out those other three categories that you
It
were
takes
talking
out,
about.
we're trying to take out those that we didn't have
Okay,
racial categories for.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
It's nice to see the certain categories going up.
Yeah.
And
We're-
I see Kate's question in the chat. Do we know the percentage of minority versus white in Tompkins County for total population?
We
Census
have
says
that in
81.
our previous report. I did not get it for this report.
Okay,
I will, for the full report, after we figure out how to match these numbers, that will be in there. It was countywide demographics, and we compared it to the workforce demographics.
perfect. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Ruby? Annie?
Just one more, I think we had talked about this before, for those who identify as LGBTQ, I think you had said before that it's hard to get those numbers. Is
We
that
don't
correct?
collect those numbers.
Don't collect them?
We collect in the demographic sheet, and it's based upon the federal reporting, male, female, and the racial categories that are there. We don't ask sexual identity or preference. We're trying to get it so that we can have male, female, they, or others there now.
Okay,
So we're trying to, but again, these categories in the system are built upon federal reporting requirements. And until that changes, we have to come up with some sort of internal way to collect that data.
okay. And I'm assuming you meant sexual,
Identity.
sexual identity or orientation, not preference. Yeah,
Right.
okay. All right, thank you.
I see Ken's hand raised, but he also put BRB in the chat.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Um, Anyone else have other questions for Ruby? Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruby. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Now, I may have to leave, but I wanted to get that in.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. That is it for reports updates. Now we can move to discussion items and get an update from attendees of Facing Race. I know Veronica has a lot to share.
Yeah. Yes. Did anyone else here go to the conference or any part of it?
Ruby did.
Oh yes, of course. You said you might have to leave, and in my mind, I imagine that you did. And well, actually, because of that, would you want to report back first? No pressure.
No problem. You might be better at it than I am. This was my first time attending the conference of such. It was different for me. I'm more used to looking at race and from a more, I want to say, practical grassroots level. A lot of the presentations were from a higher ed perspective and a more philosophical perspective for me that I attended. So it was a little different for me. Some things I found it difficult to grasp because I kept wanting them to bring it down to, okay, what can we do? How can we make this more of a reality in the workplace? The terminology is, and I hate to say it's more highbrow than I'm used to. So yeah, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really was looking for more of an everyday practical, how do we take the principles, how do we take our goals, and how do we make it reality for our employees? And I only got that maybe from one session that I attended.
What can I ask what were some of the takeaways from that session? And for context for others, there were plenary talks and things that everyone went to, and then there were dozens and dozens of breakout workshops. So I don't think Ruby and I attended the same of any of those. So.
The takeaway from the workshop that really mattered the most to me was we actually broke down the words that are commonly used to try to figure out what they mean to everyone. And we talked about different scenarios where they may be relevant and how to make them more relevant. How to take our principles, how to take our goals and actually come up with a plan where, or a place where we can feel free to discuss racial issues. So that was, and how to get people to understand without the confrontation. So that was my takeaway from that workshop. Met some really nice people from Wichita, Kansas too. But again, they were professors at higher ed universities and things. So it's like, okay, we can do that. But it was really communicating. How do you talk about race? How do you avoid the confrontations and yet get something out of it? Allow people that space to talk about it, to share what they're feeling, but yet come to a common denominator.
Can I see your hand? Did you? Okay, all right.
I don't know if I should talk now. I actually, thank you. That's fascinating for me to hear, because this is like not at all my impression of the conference. And maybe it's like, to my mind, it seemed like a dominant perspective there was that of grassroots organizers and doing racial justice work. But before this, I grew up in higher ed. So maybe you were probably comparing to different things and went to different workshops. So I was trying to choose ones about like governing and things that I thought would be relevant to specifically my role as a legislator. And that's gonna, overlap with this community or this committee and other people's roles, but in like not always the same way. I went to a theme that I took from it seemed to be about relationship building and what you have to do to really do government work that actually furthers racial equity in a transformative way and in a way that actually brings in the desires and needs and perspectives of people of color who have been most marginalized or most struggling. So one thing that struck me was for a conference called Facing Race. Obviously race was talked about a lot, but somehow not quite as much as I expected. A lot of the workshops were, it wasn't directly about this is what's going on with racism. In fact, it was, I think there was an assumption of that everyone there understands that his longstanding systemic oppression and structural racism and also all these things are a thing. No one was explaining the basics, which maybe, I don't know, as a white person, often in white spaces, I'm used to that happening. And I think it was just assumed that we know that. So, okay, how do we try to achieve our goals knowing this. And so a lot of it didn't come down to like, this is specifically a thing about like what it means to be Black, say, but it was about like for the government things, there was a lot of this government structure is set up to exclude certain people, or you may be trying to run a diversity program or run a help people impoverished on this side of town program, but it's not going to be what people need if it's not really driven by the community. And a thing that kept getting highlighted was how rarely something within government is driven by the community. And so some takeaways on that I had were like that, and there were a few like case study examples that people who had been involved with something presented in a workshop where there was one workshop I went where someone, I can't remember where this was at the moment, but there was someone from inside government, not an elected, but like a staff member, and then a community organizer from outside that each shared a project that they were involved in and that they thought worked really well as a like inside outside collaboration. And in both cases, it required going to where the community already is. So that can, I mean, from a very physical perspective, say having public hearings in these chambers is not even close. It was like, go down to wherever people are already gathering and create sustained ongoing relationships with people in the community. So not like someone was differentiating between engagement in like a one-time survey or one-time event versus building a relationship that each interaction is not necessarily for a particular purpose, but those relationships are critical to like actually hearing feedback from the community and having like people, community members feel and be empowered to say like, this is what we need and this is what the government should be providing, and have a pathway for that to determine what the government is doing. I could go on forever. I'll try not to. Feel free to ask me things. But one really important concept I think that I learned in one of the workshops was the concept of civic trauma, which was, as explained to me, it was the trauma of interacting with like government or institutions or bureaucracy in a way that is like taxing or harmful or doesn't hurt you. And this happens, I mean, to people all the time, and especially people of color, and especially people in poverty, and especially queer people, and especially intersections of all these things. And it doesn't have to come from one particular horrifying interaction with bureaucracy, and it doesn't have to be because anybody in the government was mean or had bad intentions, but it can just be a sustained, this does not seem to be for me, this is not helpful, this is set up in some other way. And the civic trauma, which is kind of an opposite of trust, that can result will show up in ways like there will be many folks who just don't trust the government at all, or just someone comes from the government saying hey, we want to help you with this, and they're from the government, no, not interested. And it was really helpful for me to have a phrase for that and name that concept, because I think that really, and I think if I was understanding it right, that relationship building and trust building in community places and not in government places is key to breaking down civic trauma. And it's just designing the very best government driven programs in the world will do nothing to break that down. I'll leave it there.
One thing I wanted to agree with Veronica, that I think there was the assumption that we all understood or were on the same level. And that may have been my problem with a couple of the workshops. I actually texted Deanna in a couple of them when the words came about. I've never heard of libertarian vision of racial equality, metabolizing, alchemists. They were using terms that I'm just was not familiar with. But one thing I did get, though, there was a lot of emphasis on self-care for people who are in the work, that it's necessary for you to take time to care for yourself because it's difficult and taxing work. They had the massage room or quiet room available if you needed to take that time. And they were really urging people in the work of racial justice to take time out, listen to their bodies, let their values direct their paths. And really, in order to do the work, you've got to take care of yourself, and that you have the power to dictate that. So that was one big takeaway that I would say was good for me.
Yeah, I also feel like I took that message loud and clear. One of the plenary panels, one of the speakers in it multiple times told us, like, they asked for a takeaway bit of advice, and she was like, take a nap. Literally lie down, take a nap, which is good. Yeah, that, and I think you alluded to this, another big thing was like have a North Star in like where you're going with organizing, because you're gonna have to do the nitty gritty and get swayed by this or that. But always coming back to the like, where are we going? People said was helpful. Yeah.
Yanni.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you started to talk about already, like takeaways and also things that as we get into our goals for next year of things, because there might be things you do in your own personal job or outside of this committee, but thinking about things that you learned or it shined a new light on things that we can start working on for next year. And you don't have to answer that now, but I'm just wondering if that's something that you want to comment on. You don't have to. Or at this point, I might ask you in a couple minutes when we get to our goals, when we start talking about those.
I don't know that I have immediate ideas for goals, but the know your focus and values and North Star thing makes me glad that like we have goals and we'll set goals, and like, as a county, we have our diversity statement to return to. And so, just one little thought is coming back to that, like always again and again, can't hurt.
And thank you, Veronica,
Right,
also for, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Annie.
I was just going to say thanks that, that's something, a takeaway for when we think about our goals is long-term goals, and then how we're going to get there, because a long-term goal can take many years as we know to get to. And I was also thinking about what the takeaway of you saying that going to the communities, versus doing stuff as we traditionally do, like come to these meetings, come to our meetings versus possibly doing some outreach in the communities. Just something to think about. I mean, that was what's going on in my head. Like, hey, but let's maybe do a subcommittee that goes out to different groups, and it meets them where they are.
Yes, and I wanted to thank you, Veronica, for sharing your tweets, because I loved reading through those. You shared a lot each day, and that was great. I was supposed to attend virtually, but Friday I got logged in and I couldn't access the content. It was having some problem with my VPN. And we ended up being unexpectedly really shorthanded at the office. So it was super busy here and I was having trouble getting any of the content. And then I know there were some things happening Saturday, but I had family stuff going on that I couldn't attend Saturday. So I felt like I missed out and I got to feel a little more apart through reading your experiences on Twitter. So that was great. Thank you. Ken, did you attend virtually this year?
No, I didn't attend virtually this year, but hearing, you know, the information coming back, I would like to, I've never attended in person and it's really inspired me to want to go. And so I'm hoping a couple more of us could possibly go this year,
Yeah.
next year.
Yep. What about you, Ken?
I attended the first day online, and then unfortunately I wasn't able to take in anything on Saturday because I had to go out of town unexpectedly. But I was able to get in on a couple of sessions, and on that Friday, I guess, to sort of do that while also having to kind of tend to work
Yeah.
commitments and calls and walk-ins.
Yeah.
I've
But,
attended virtually before and it's very hard to not let other things interfere. That's why I'm thinking, okay, and to, I think, take it all in. So I think definitely I want to make a commitment to try and go to that to absorb more.
Yeah, I did the conference online 2 years ago, but it was quieter those particular days than it was one this year. But my intent is to go in person 2 years from now. I hope, pray, wish COVID-19 will be behind us by then.
that would be nice.
So I attended virtually. I went to the plenaries. I was curious if anyone, the keynote, Ibram Kendi, something happened with the live stream. At least I wasn't able to watch it. I don't know if anyone else was virtual that was able to see him speak.
No, I would have loved to though. And that's unfortunate that you weren't able to see it.
Yeah. The other thing is too, I don't know if everyone got it, but they sent a link. So they actually have video recordings of a lot of the breakout sessions. So if you signed up for virtual,
Okay.
we can go back. And so if Veronica or Ruby have ones they recommend, we can go watch them. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Dina. I was not aware. You said an email went out?
Yeah, I got an email earlier this week.
Okay. I'll have to go back and check for that.
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you attend virtually? Okay. Does anyone else have anything on facing race? Okay. And I realized actually just before the meeting that I think in our last meeting, we had updated everyone on the hiring of a new chief equity and diversity officer. And since then, that person has said that they took another position. So we are opening that search up again. And most of us know, but I didn't know that everybody knew that. So I thought we should bring that up here. So that search continues. Okay, so we can move on to discussion items, or we're already on discussion items. We did facing race, and now we're moving on to the bylaws. So I think, Taylor, you can do a screen share of the bylaws so we can take a look, and hopefully everybody had a chance to look these over before the meeting.
Oh. Sorry, guys, it's taking me a second.
That's okay.
While Taylor's doing that, Rachel, do you have a preference on like how we go through these and talk about them?
I mean, I guess we just go maybe through each paragraph, and anyone with ideas or questions on amendments just raises their hand.
Why is it not letting me?
I made a few notes when I read through them. I don't imagine there will be a lot to change.
I went through and just highlighted bits that I had a question or concern about. That's why.
Taylor, do you want somebody else to try and do the screen share?
Well, it's not adding me as a panelist. I'm not sure why. It says there's an error code. Very interesting. Yeah, Rachel, may I send it to you?
Sure.
Okay. I have them right here in this I apologize for the confusion.
That's fine. So then doing it this way, the only thing is, if there are track changes being made, we just won't see them as that's happening because Taylor will be doing those. I just got the email. Let me just wait for the scan to complete before I can open it.
Oh, interesting.
There we go. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. And then luckily there are so few of us that I think I can still see everybody. Okay, so I guess let's just start with statement of purpose. Does anyone have anything for any of those three bullets there?
Yes, so many questions, sorry.
Okay.
Who or what is the affirmative action officer?
That's a good question.
Is that what we're now calling the chief diversity and inclusion?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
That may be something I'll need to circle back with Ruby on, because I would guess that she would have the answer to that. So let me make myself a note.
So that is
It
an
looks like a
interesting,
position that was in force when this was adopted, but clearly is no longer in force.
Right. So that we may want to think about changing that to Chief Equity and Diversity Officer.
and that's an interesting point, because the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer position didn't exist when these bylaws were last edited, right?
Right.
But it probably should show up in some unofficial relationship with this committee, I would imagine.
Yes.
Mhm.
Good point.
Veronica, did you have anything else on this section?
Yes, is the
Okay.
Commissioner of Personnel, is that Ruby's title, or is that,
Yes.
okay? Is that her official title, not like HR Commissioner?
No, it's commissioner first, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the personnel department was changed to human resources.
Right. So that would probably, we could update that to Human Resources.
Oh, right.
Okay. Okay, and then in this, can I go to the second bullet point?
Yeah.
I just, maybe my brain is fried, but I'm not parsing that wording very well. The encourage equality of treatment in, for, and discourage discrimination in. What is the word for doing? Can someone interpret that for me? Or can we change it?
Yeah, I had to read that a few times myself when I got to that part.
It looks like a miscue.
Yeah, I think we can just strike the 4.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. And then in the third bullet point, the Tompkins County Diversity Policy Guidelines, I looked them up and I just see they've been updated since that resolution and date. So maybe we should update that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And possibly embarrassingly, I don't know what the diversity and inclusion plan is. What or where is that?
That was a goal, I believe, that never actually happened. And then that was something that Jedi was working on when we had started doing research for a diversity plan when it was decided that there was going to be a oh, why am I not thinking the word now? Ken, what is the thing that planning is doing? My brain isn't working for me right now.
the planning.
Yeah, it's going through planning and there's a bid out, I think, for a company to do I keep wanting to say comprehensive plan, but it's not that.
Are you talking about the survey?
No.
Strategic plan?
Yes, thank you.
The what?
The strategic plan.
Oh, okay.
And so they put our research for a diversity plan on hold because that was going to be wrapped into the strategic plan.
Okay.
So we may want to change diversity and inclusion plan to
Strategic.
the Tompkins County strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Which also is not even a plan that's been adopted yet, but it is going to be happening.
I want to go back to bullet number 2.
Mhm.
I think this that clause for and discourage discrimination and was probably intended to go somewhere else. It would read better if it said, for example, to encourage equality of treatment in employment and customer service within Tompkins County on any basis, including local law and state and federally protected classes, and discourage discrimination.
I mean, I get why it's there. Because it's to encourage equality of treatment in employment and customer service and to discourage discrimination in employment and customer service.
Yeah, I think, yeah, yeah, if we relocated the for and discourage discrimination.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone have anything else?
Would we like to relocate that then?
Hmm?
Would you like to switch that then?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Are we good to move on to Article 3?
Yeah.
We'll go to membership number 1. And here's where I think we want to come up with a firm number rather than a range of numbers. Here it says 11 to 15 members. So does anyone have ideas of numbers? I put 13 or 15.
I would say up to 15.
Okay.
That does still make it a range if we say up to.
Yeah, it does.
How many members are there now again?
It's on
12, I think.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Oh, 11.
11.
Oh, we had 12 with Henry.
Right.
So then let's go with Rachel's suggestion about 13.
13. Okay. Good.
And then this says undesignated seats. Kathy was telling us that we could make designated seats if we wanted to have a certain number of legislators, a certain number of employees, a certain number of members from the public. Or a certain number of any particular group of people. Does anyone have any feelings about that? I feel okay with leaving it undesignated as long as, however we're recruiting, we're trying to make sure that we have a pretty balanced group. Like right now, I feel like all the employees we have are now in management, so we don't have employees that are not management on the committee at this point. Kate?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing with the, the non, either making sure we have representation from like all union bodies or different levels of management, non-management. And then do we want to set a minimum number of legislators? That would be, with Henry, we had 3, but is there a thought to make sure that there's enough representation there that we can make sure that we're moving in the right direction and have their support behind things we're doing? That's just a question. There may be.
Yeah. Anyone have thoughts on that?
I like both those ideas. Don't necessarily have an idea how to formalize them. I also wanted to mention another thing I had highlighted. It's down in Article 4, but the second paragraph says the roles and responsibilities of committee members are incorporated as to function as a representative of the represented segment of the community or group. So does that mean that committee members are implicitly representing a particular segment of the community or group or
I want to say I think that was the idea.
Just wondering if we want to ask, like say for instance, Jennifer who's here, I don't want to I guess I am putting her on the spot, but as a representative of, a group, of how that sounds.
Well, it looks like she stepped away. I'm also feeling kind of sad that Leslyn isn't here because I know that she had a big part in putting these bylaws together, so her input would be helpful.
Yeah, is that something that maybe we could, this can be a multi-month process, or
Sure.
do we have to get them done by the end of the year? But can we, just wondering if we can make sure we reach out to her, because I know she's missed some meetings, and let her know we're wanting her help on this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we should go through and just track what changes we can with those of us that are here today. And then, we won't make any official changes until we get input from people who aren't here today. We don't have to move anything. We can
Be like lined and read and suggested.
Right.
Yep, I'll do strikes and highlights and then we'll put it on the agenda again.
Perfect.
Thank you, Taylor.
So I guess for now, we'll just, we'll say 13 members and we'll leave it undesignated seats, but maybe highlight that with a question.
Yep.
And then we can move on. We won't get stuck. We won't let ourselves get stuck somewhere, knowing that we'll have more discussion about it with more people later. Does anyone have anything else for Article 3 before we move on to Article 4? Okay, so then moving on to Article 4. That was where we were with the represented segments.
We move the screen share down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at paper and I keep forgetting that I'm sharing my screen here. Article 3, Article 4. Okay.
I have a question about the third paragraph there, if I can.
Okay.
The Commissioner of Personnel complaints of alleged discrimination, et cetera, which is, has that ever happened or happened much? And also, what's the relationship been, if any, between this committee and the Human Rights Commission?
Well, Ken has been on this committee and reports.
Yeah, I mean, I always understood that this was the job of the person who was either director or, as I was in my earlier days, the special advisor to the office. And I think, well, in the reference here to Human Rights Commission, actually, I think refers to the office, because the office actually went by that title until 2013, when it was changed to the Office of Human Rights. So I think that it's not, my guess is that Human Rights Commission does not refer to our advisory board that goes by that name.
Does make more sense. Should we change that?
Yeah, and personnel again in this paragraph to human resources as well.
Yeah.
And Veronica, to your first question, from what I understand that Leslie's shared, that that's the reason that WDIC was formed, so was actively involved in some of those issues at some point. Since I've been here, I've not had that come up in a WDIC meeting. But it must have at some point. And also, I think knowing that we didn't have a CEDO then, I think some of those issues might bypass WDIC if someone contacts the CDO, and then they would handle that with HR, and it might not ever land here.
That's a good point. And when we get our CEDO, then they might have some input on their roles as it pertains to our bylaws too.
Yeah, and Ruby may as well. So this is a spot we'll want to ask.
May I confirm the verbiage we want to change in the third paragraph under 4? We want to change Human Rights Commission to Human Rights Office.
Or Office of Human Rights, I think
Okay.
is the official title.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else in section 4? I guess, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph again, where it talks about the diversity and inclusion plan again. We may want to replace that with a strategic plan.
That's in 6, 7, and 8, I think.
Oh, yes, it is.
And then is Tompkins County Diversity Policy Guidelines still the appropriate?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, I've got all 3 of those.
And then I'm seeing personnel again in that last sentence.
Do we still do that annual report?
I wouldn't know. I don't, do you remember if that happened? Did Henry give one last year?
I don't recall Henry giving one.
I don't recall, but
I can
I
follow
could have
up.
just forgot.
I can follow up with that.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that too and had a question mark next to it.
I know he did report regularly to the legislative committee assigned the human resources function, like budget, capital, and personnel. Oh, personnel's in the committee name.
Okay, should we move on to Article 5 then?
Was there something else in that last sentence there that we wanted to strike?
I think just a question on the annual report.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I heard something about personnel.
Oh, there is assigned to the personnel. I don't know if we want to change personnel to human resources, but I guess they're not really talking about the department there.
Right,
So we can leave that one.
okay.
Okay, so Article 5 officers. Oh, I had a question on number 5. Because the chair has typically been a legislator. If it's not, how would that work with giving reports from the committee? Whoever it is would just have to show up to that legislative meeting.
I think so.
Mhm.
Okay.
I also, on that note, for number 2,
Hmm.
where it says, initially the chair shall be a county legislator. Does that just mean like the first chair of this committee was a county legislator, but now it doesn't matter?
That was my
Yeah.
interpretation of it.
Okay.
Yeah, mine too.
Um,
And
So I
Rachel, I
guess
don't
we-
know,
Go
I don't
ahead.
know if you have time, but, to go to the BCP meeting, but, if not, we could maybe, you, Veronica, and I could talk, so one of us at least could show up and give a report. And Veronica has mostly been taking it as reporting to the legislature at the legislature meetings about what we've been doing.
Okay. Do you know when that is?
I'm not just on the phone. Taylor, do you
Okay.
have the next meeting?
Yep, the
BCP.
next BCP meeting is Monday, the 12th at 3 in chambers or virtual.
Okay.
And if you want to try and attend, you could let Taylor know, and she or one of the clerks could send you the Zoom link.
Correct.
That's at 3. Think I have a conflict for that actually. Let me look at my calendar here. Yeah, I would not be able to make this one. Is that always the second Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have a standing meeting the second Monday.
I think that's the 3rd, actually, the 3rd.
Oh, is it the 3rd?
It's the 3rd.
Okay.
Veronica, are you able to do
Oh,
that
I
one?
apologize, it is the 2nd.
Okay.
Sorry, what did you
Veronica,
say?
are you able to attend that one?
This particular month?
No.
Yeah, I could, yeah, not right on time, but yes. Yeah,
Okay, and then we can think about it, January, when we reorganize. After that, figure it out.
yeah, that sounds good. Because after this, when is our next meeting of this committee? It would be like late January.
Late, yeah,
Mhm.
last Wednesday in January.
BCP is late in the agenda.
Anyone else have anything for Article 5? Let me move this down.
Just in number 6, and then also I think in number 2 in Article 6, there's someone's referred to as a him/her or his/her, and could that just be a them?
Yes.
Them or their, whatever it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Thank you.
And you said in the top.
And just to put a footnote here, not a real footnote, Taylor, but just to put a kind of a footnote in our minds that when we talk about goals, that's something I'd like to discuss, you know, as far as like our written policies and, you know, for the county, trying to go to more gender neutral pronouns.
Okay. Are we good to move on to Article 6?
I just had a minor thing in number 1, where it says time and place to be designated the chair. Should that be designated by the chair?
Yes.
Also, wait, who's keeping track of the edits? Just because Taylor had to.
Yeah,
step-
Taylor is, so we'll have to wait for her to get back.
All right, that's fine. A phone rings somewhere, and it is kind of after hours, so there are no other clerks here. That was the last thing I had highlighted in the whole
Okay.
bylaws.
Yeah, I don't have any others either. So for Article 6, we have by the chair and changing his, her to their on motion.
Yeah. Oh, I guess in Article 7, number 3, it mentions the diversity and inclusion plan again.
Oh, yes, it
So that
does.
should just be the strategic plan again.
Yeah. So then any changes that get made to this would be brought back to this committee for further discussion, and then we would have to move to adopt the changes. And then it would go on to the full ledge to approve the changes of the bylaws also. That's the way I'm reading it here. Article 7, number 1. Let me move this down.
That is my understanding, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
Does it have to go through BCP in between?
I have no idea. Hopefully Taylor knows.
You mean when we're finished with the bylaws?
Yeah, so like,
Yeah. Yes.
okay, so it would go from here to BCP, then to the full ledge.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like we're doing any substantial changes. So, you know,
Yeah.
if we were, I would say, you know, just to, you know, kind of get them ready or get them updated on it. But I think just a note that to tell them we're, you know, just cleaning up our bylaws right now. It sounds like we're just cleaning them up and updating them.
Okay, Taylor, so Article 6, number 1, we have inserting by where it says to be designated the chair. Should be
Designated by the chair.
Yeah. And then in number 2, his, her to their.
Yep.
And then Article 7, number 3, where the diversity and inclusion plan is noted again, we'll change that to just strategic plan again.
Yep, got it.
And that's, I think, all we have on that, unless anyone has anything further. And then we'll bring this up. Maybe we'll just plan to put this on the agenda for January's meeting again. I wonder, in the meantime, can we get copies to the full committee of the track changes just so they can review it?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll shoot for Monday afternoon.
Okay. Thanks, Taylor. Okay, so review of 2022 goals. Don't think I have a copy of that on my laptop.
I think it is in the email that I forwarded to you.
Okay. Perfect. There it is. There's mine. Are you seeing that?
Yep.
Okay. So for the ADA compliance part there, I did reach out to the Finger Lakes Independence Center and never heard back.
Mm.
I can't remember what, it was before Deanna left because I remember talking to her about it.
Just a thought on that one. That some places have to hire a consultant to come in and help with that. So that's just something maybe to forward to next year and think about how to do that, we're meeting the requirements, I kind of think of them as minimal requirements, but can we do more? Or what else? I know we can do more. What else can be done?
Okay, so move that to keeping for 2023. Another thing I thought we may want to add to 2023 is, or actually, I guess it was more of a question. So once the results of the compensation study are out, is that's something that would come back to this committee, right?
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know if that's going to BCP or to us. I don't think we've talked about that.
I mean, I don't think it would be anything that we would be approving or anything, but I would think at least a report to this committee once
You could
that's
ask
complete.
for one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Veronica can make sure she mentions that at BCP that we want to we want to, we'd like it to be a report out to this committee and input, with our input, I would like it to be considered.
Right. Questions and input.
Yeah, and some and possible recommendations. I mean, this is the committee that deals with fairness and equity.
Right. And then on that same note, I remember Deanna saying before she left that the strategic plan could affect whether or not the next climate survey goes out or not. And that was supposed to be in 2022, but at the beginning of the year, we voted to postpone that to 2023. So we may want to ask Lisa about that. I'm not sure how not the compensation study, how the workplace climate survey will be affected by the strategic plan while that's being developed. And then we may want to have, I guess it wouldn't be a goal of this committee, but we need to fill the position of the CEDO. So we'll want to keep getting reports on that.
Mhm.
And that position also is who would be planning the workforce reading and discussion program. So that would be kind of on hold until that position is filled as well. Also, we'd want to follow information regarding the strategic plan to ensure that DEIJ are central and essential components of the plan. And then here is where we'd want to know what you said too, Annie, about gender neutral pronouns.
Right. So I'm not sure what the goal would be, but so I just open it up to you guys. But just noticing as we're having some policies come before us, and years ago it was changing it to like him or her or she or but now I believe we'd like to be more general, and even some of the job descriptions that are going out that I'm seeing now. So what do other folks
So
think
like
about
job
that as a goal?
descriptions, policies.
Yeah, and everything that the county, legally that we can.
And I know forms was a big one that Jedi had been working on with the departments that are represented there. We all took a look at our forms to try to make sure that we had that
Did you?
on our
Great.
forms. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are, ideas, and then, of course, we can decide as a committee, which ones we want to work on.
Does anyone have anything that you want to discuss about goals that we didn't touch on already or that aren't on here?
Did we do anything about the racism as a public health crisis thing?
No.
Did we do anything about diversity training for board appointees? Does that mean, wait, what does that even, I don't remember what that meant. I apologize.
So that was looking, well, I think it was a combination of looking at trainings for the workforce in general, but also that we would be asking any advisory board members to participate in those training. And that was also something that Deanna was working on before she left.
Would that, is there any way to get, I realize that Deanna left, but like
Yeah.
an update on however far she got, and or is this worth thinking about in conjunction with the work on the like advisory board standardized bylaws and application process stuff that like some folks on our government operations committee are working on?
I don't have an answer to that part because I didn't know anything about that work happening, but there is a JEDI committee specifically for training and education. And they have done a lot of research, and they had a company that they wanted to go with. But this, I can't remember the name of the company. I could get it to report back. But they also did a huge compliance piece that you couldn't get their diversity trainings without also getting their compliance training. And when it was brought up with HR, we were told that it was too cost prohibitive. So I think they went back to the drawing board on the trainings because they were really happy with that company. I couldn't remember the name of it.
Well, that's unfortunate, but thank you for that update.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of things are on hold right now.
And then what did equality discussion groupings mean?
I don't remember who added that. And even my last copy of these goals had a note from Deanna that said, will you remind me what this goal is in reference to? And I don't know what that was. I want to say there was a discussion about having groups for county employees, like maybe an LGBT group, or like groups of certain groups of employees to talk about whatever issues they were having in their workplaces. I'm not positive that's what it was, but that's what I'm thinking.
So Rachel, you might be talking about like affinity groups, like employee resource groups
Yes.
for, yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Jennifer, can you tell me a little bit more about what those are?
Sure. So typically organizations will call them employee resource groups. Cornell uses the term colleague network groups, and it's affinity spaces for people with marginalized identities. So typically like they'll have like a women of color, a men of color, LGBTQ+, veterans, ability/disability. So those types of different affinity groups based on identity.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's my guess,
Mhm.
but not 100% certain on that.
And then also, I mean, those places are meant to be empowering spaces,
Mhm.
but also kind of sounding boards for policy changes, depending upon group needs.
Mhm. Yep. Excuse me.
And that would be also, would that be like support the various members, in that group, like say if we hired, which we have, but, we saw hire somebody of color in it. Well, I was gonna say what department, I wouldn't say that, but, in a certain department, and they're the only person with that, in that group, so they could maybe belong or choose to belong to this group or attend these group sessions where they could talk with other folks that fit into that group within the county employees. Is that what it would be?
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah,
part
I
of
really like that.
sorry, and
Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
oh, okay. I was part of the Men of Color group at Cornell when I was there, and it, they met on a monthly basis. And also they would schedule sometimes events, receptions, for example, after hours, at a campus location. Part of it having to do with not only having structured discussions, but also, creating space for, outside of work types of interactions as well, and really trying to build a sense of community and camaraderie.
Does anyone else have anything for goals? I'm seeing it's 5:01, so I just want to be respectful of everyone's time.
I think that's a good start, and we can keep that on the agenda for the next
meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. I've lost my agenda.
Would it be possible for me to share an article? It's not very long, that might help us refocus on goals when we meet in January.
Please.
I could maybe send that out by email to, who should I send that to?
To Taylor, and she
To
can
Taylor
send
and
it.
Okay, great.
She
Thank
can get it out to the whole committee. That would be wonderful. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Yeah, that would be great. And if you want to, maybe at the next meeting, help kind of walk us through or summarize it, any assistance would be great.
Yep.
If it's a written article, I'm able to also make it into a ledge file and we can have it in the agenda so that folks have time to look at it that way as well, if you'd like.
Great.
That'd be great.
Okay, I'll plan to do that then.
All right.
And just want to be careful of any copyrights. So maybe Jennifer can make sure we're not sending around something that would be more appropriate a link versus a copy.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for all of your help, Taylor. And thank you all for your time. And I think we can adjourn this meeting.
Great. And our next meeting is January. I don't have my calendar out.
That would be January 25th.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Yes. Hope everyone has great holidays.
Thank you. You do the same.
Thanks.
Before we leave, I just wanted
Yes.
to mention that Amanda Champion, one of the county legislator, is working on, I don't know if she's announced it yet, but something for Henry for memorial type scholarship. So
Oh,
stay
wonderful.
tuned for that.
Great.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
have a great night, and we will see you next month.
All right.
Thank you all.
Take
Happy
care. See you
holidays.
all. Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, so we have to.
Okay.